What's going on, everyone? It's Mike back again, and for the second time of recording, from 5 hours apart, from 2 days late, me and John are finally ready to do the match debrief to a good game of football, John.
Shocking, absolutely shocking, from the first whistle to the last whistle. I know we've said it quite a few times on here that it was one of the worst performances we've seen in quite a while. That overtakes them all. It was just a shocking game of football. The only way I've seen the goal is by watching it back, because I got off and I missed the goal. I couldn't put myself through another minute of that drab football. It was shocking. There wasn't really any outstanding performances. And listen, Michael, this team is starting to be like a bit like Jekyll and Hyde. And I know we're unbeaten in 5 and people will throw that up at me. But at least in this unbeaten run of 4 before Saturday's game, we've seen at least one good half in the other games, or a good 45 minutes. That was served up on Saturday, whether it was down to the manager, whether it was down to the players who couldn't be asked, whether Fulham just wanted it more, which in my opinion they did. They were better organised, they looked more fit, they looked like they wanted it more from the first whistle to the last whistle. They played it around us, they played more football than us. Just thought it was an awful, awful performance. And you've got to listen, I know Everton got a point out of it, we've got to be happy with that after putting a performance in like that. But I'm not going to say I felt sorry for Fulham, because I didn't. We stopped them getting 3 points and we took a point. But if you're Fulham, you're a Fulham supporter there, mate, you feel so hard done by dropping 2 points like that in injury time.
Yeah, it was a weird one for me, because, like I said it in the match reaction, when you look at the game and the chances, Fulham didn't have loads of chances. They didn't. But what they did do is have the lion's share of the ball. You know, they dominate the midfield. They play the ball like, you know, somebody put in the comments, like a knife through butter, a hot knife through butter. And, you know, I felt like, I mean, I don't want to dig out certain players, right? But I really don't see what Decore brings to starting, and that's on Dosh. There is players in that team that could start over Decore. I'm not thrilled with Calvert-Lewin, and look, I'm not going to dig him out. We dug him out before. We did a video basically fucking nailing him, but there's just fundamentals that just aren't being done, aren't being fixed, aren't being addressed, and it's week in, week out. Now, look, you're right. 5 games unbeaten. That's a positive. You know, 9 points from those 5 games. Yeah, again, positive. But equally, at home to Fulham, or, you know, being, up 2-0 against Bournemouth, you are absolutely right with what you're saying. It's Jekyll and Hyde. You've got 87 minutes of playing probably the best football we've played in a long time against Bournemouth. We lose the game. Then you've got 94th minute equaliser by a striker that we've all wrote off, who, by the way, has got absolute spot-on attitude. I'll never dig out Beto for his attitude, right? And you sit there and you think, am I in cuckoo land? Because then all of a sudden you've got players doing interviews and comments and post-match stuff, basically saying, I want to score another 13 goals I've seen today. And I'm sitting there going, what planet are you on? To score 13 goals, you have to commit to Everton for another 2.5 years. And I'm telling you now, you may get away with that now. You may be able to get away with piss poor performances, with a piss poor manager making piss poor substitutions at piss poor times. You could probably get away with piss poor attitudes. But mate, where we are going as a football club, the new stadium, the aura, the aggression, the expansion of this freaking group into Everton, I am telling you now, that ain't going to cover it. That mentality, that mediocre mentality of going, oh, yeah, we got a point at home against Fulham. We didn't lose, yeah. Do you know what? It's an absolute disgrace, and it spreads mediocrity between the manager, the players. And I tell you the other player that I felt sorry for in that game. I felt sorry for two absolute. I thought Michael Keane had a good game. Yet again, I thought Tarkowski was awful. Awful, awful, awful. And the other one that I thought was absolutely fantastic was Ladrissa Garnaguy, and he had absolutely no support whatsoever to do his job. I felt like it was horrendous. Horrendous.
Added to that, I thought Ashley Young put another good performance in as well. But you see, the thing is, you mentioned Michael Keane. Again, I thought he was spot on. I think he's been spot on since the majority of the season, up until, the 9 games that we've played. And I did say in my match preview we're done with Frankie, if Branthwaite's fit, does he come straight back in? And if he does, stats don't lie, figures don't lie. That the best central partnership at the club is Jarrad Branthwaite and James Tarkowski. But when you're watching performances from Tarkowski, which we've been watching week in, week out this season, I would have no problem playing Branthwaite alongside Michael Keane. And you go back to a striker who's come out with absolutely bull crap today that he needs another 13 goals. Well, the only way you're getting them 13 goals, Dominic, is if you sign a contract for another 2.5 to 3 years, because on the performances that you're putting in at the minute, that's how long it's going to take you to score 13 goals. So I've just spoke about it. I have no problem bringing Branthwaite in next to Michael Keane. I would have no problem starting Beto on Saturday against Southampton, because the attitude from Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and I've seen people on Twitter, and I've heard people in the media, and I've seen people in the comments saying Dominic Calvert-Lewin is isolated. You look at how many teams play with one striker in the Premier League, and if that striker's not getting service, he will at least break a sweat. He will at least chase the defenders down. He will at least track back to try and win the ball for the team and lay it off to the midfield and then bomb up front, hoping to get the ball back. He does absolutely nothing, in my opinion, to start over Beto. So that's how poor I think Dominic Calvert's attitude has been this season. His work rate, his goal scoring, it's not great. He scored a couple. But for me, the big thing for me coming from him, and I've just said it there, it's the attitude. His attitude towards the team, towards the club. And the biggest thing towards that blue shirt that he's getting given every week, his attitude is absolutely shocking.
Yeah. I don't, it sounds awful. I don't want to nail Calvert-Lewin today. So I'm not even going to talk about it. I'm literally.
We have nailed Dominic Calvert-Lewin so much on this channel lately, which, in my opinion, has been warranted. Right, the head on the hammer is wore out. Right, you're saying you don't want to dig him out. The spade's been used that many times. It's fucking James Blunt. Because he's not doing anything to change our opinion on him. He's not putting shifts in. He's not putting performances in. So I'm getting to the point now where I'm all nailed out with Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Wouldn't ask me if he never got mentioned again, because it's going to be the same shit, the same comments that come out week in, week out regarding him. His attitude stinks. And quite right with what you say about Beto. One thing, listen, he's not the most gifted player. Calvert-Lewin is a more gifted player than Beto. Let's be honest about it. He is. But for work rate and attitude towards this football club that made him get in tears the other day after scoring that goals is off the scale compared to Dominic Calvert-Lewin's.
Yeah. Yeah. Not going to argue with any of that. And look, when people talk about Calvert-Lewin being isolated, as far as I can recall, Calvert-Lewin's missed 5 one-on-ones this season so far. So I'm just leaving it there.
Yeah.
We could talk about isolation, but he could legitimately, even if he converted half, it'd be on 5 to 6 goals this season. As it is, he's on 2. So, yeah, right. I think it's also important, John. The debrief. We've called a spade a spade. The game was poor. We were lucky to get a draw. I've watched it back, and it was a game that I felt that if Everton were prepared correctly, the team was correct, I felt like we could have won. We weren't correct. We weren't prepared. The setup was wrong. We didn't win. We got a draw. Fine. We move on. News come out today regarding the Everton stadium, the season ticking process. Now, obviously, you're a season ticket holder for many, many years, and I've been unfortunate enough to not have a season ticket, but I'm very high now on the waiting list. So fingers crossed, I'll get a ticket. How have you taken the news and maybe some of the rumours around pricing? Obviously, you can't mention anything specific, but what's your take on it?
I'm not going to mention the pricing. From what I heard the other day, it's not right to mention that rumour until we see what the price it is. Season ticket holders of 23 years or more are getting first dibs, basically, which I have no problem with whatsoever. I think they are doing it right. I would have liked to have actually gone to the ground.
Is that you, John? Just out of interest, are you in the 23 years?
No. And it does say you can actually look on the email that we've been sent, the tenure, I think it's called. And I don't even know how long I've been a season ticket. I have to look at my season ticket. And I think it says issue number. But I've moved around, so it's more than what it says. But you can't even log on to the tenure because Everton have Everton's it again. And the website's crashed. So hopefully that was down to the amount of people who were getting on. I will get a season ticket. All season ticket holders are going to get a ticket. It's just that they're doing it in stages. So 23 years and above, first dibs for them. And then obviously it'll be dropping down. It's a virtual view of the seat that you picked. Apparently it's this new software they've got where it looks like real, the view you will get. As I say, I would have liked to have preferred to have gone down to the ground, but obviously there will be building work going on still after December, so I can understand why. But listen, they have done it fair. I think they've really took on board the fans' opinions on it because there was many surveys that we all got sent, all season ticket holders. I think all fans, I'm not sure if all fans got them. So I think it's been fair how they're doing it. I just would have liked to have been there in person to pick my seat, but obviously that can't be done. But Dan Friedkin, if rumours are be to believed as well, while we're talking about season tickets and about capacities and what have you, he has said one of the first things he wants to look at is extending the stadium. Now, you've always said 60,000. When you've got 30, I think it's 30,000 on a season ticket wait list or something like that. It should have been 60,000 from day one, in my opinion. That was obviously down to costs. When the Dan Friedkin group get involved in Everton, cost isn't going to be an issue. Obviously, the owner who was in charge of Everton when this all started, and we could start to see that the stadium rise, and it was Mr. Mashiri. So he's looked at the cost, I think, on that more than anything. So it can be up to at least 60,000, which I think he is going to look at. But it gives everybody else an opportunity, to be there, to be in the new stadium. I think you've been in Tier 1 now for 4 or 5 years, if I'm right in saying. You're guaranteed a ticket, in my opinion. I think you're definitely going to get one.
Yeah. I think, I get how it works, and I don't have an issue with it fundamentally. I get the season ticket holders come first, and then people like me who've been on the membership yet. The only thing that's a bit of a shame is, it's very unlikely me and you are going to be sitting together, for example. That's very, very unlikely. But it is what it is. I'd rather not smell you. I can smell you from the upper end of the ground. I'm fine with that. But realistically, I said at the start, I said when this was announced, you did a video about it, and I was trying to find it, but I'm pretty sure it was called Lack of Ambition. I know there's lots of contributing factors to not having this 60,000 seat stadium, and as it stands at the minute, it's going to be 52,888. total actually will vary slightly once it's all fitted. I mean, how you can't just go around and count the seats at this point, I don't know. But apparently it may change. But there was always that scope to do with the standing area and the safe standing regulation to increase it by 10,000 to 62,888. Now, for me, my argument always was, you've got the areas, which is, I think it's behind the south stand, where there's a cutout, and there's a cutout in the actual seating, and there's a little area there. And I don't understand why they didn't put seats there, for example, to increase it.
Is this the bit where, if you look at it in front of you, there's like two white strips?
Yeah.
They're for the wheelchairs.
No. It's at the back. It's at the back of the stand. I'll put the picture on of where. I mean, you guys, look, you're much more intelligent than me. I'm sure there's some architects that spend their time away from building buildings to watch mine and John's face. So if any of you are in there and can go, right, Mike, the reason why they haven't put seats there is because of X. But I would like to know why they didn't put, I think it's the south stand, the seats to go round a level rate. Because what they do is they go round and then they dip in and merge together here, and there's a gap. So I don't understand why there's not seats there. I don't understand why they didn't originally go for 60,000, knowing that this is a waterlocked area. So it's not easy to extend the stadium. It's not a piece of cake. It really will be difficult to extend this stadium. And the other thing is, it's about the shape of the stadium. The shape is like a rectangle, but it's round on the two sides and sort of flat-ish on the other two sides. And the problem with that is, because it's not a traditional bowl in that sense, they haven't utilised the space of these two ends, which could have maybe had a few more seats. Now, again, I don't know the reasons, but the point I'm making is...
Could it be down to television gantries or where the cameras are going to be?
John, I have no idea. I honestly haven't got a clue, but my point is, there was 32,000 season ticket holders at the time. I think that's actually slightly increased because I think Everton have tried to give a slightly more season tickets away every year. And there's something like 25 to 30,000 people on a waiting list. We talk about supply and demand. 52,888 will sell out every single week, no problem, no issue. But 60,000 would also sell out every week, no problem. And I don't understand why they didn't just go, we're going to do that. I don't know how much the cost difference would be in the materials, in the labour, but we're now past that point. But I don't get it. I don't get why we didn't do it. And there was a little bit of a debate. I saw it on Twitter. Dan Moyes and the Esk talking about this 60,000 conundrum. For me, we should have made a statement. Everton are building a brand new stadium and it's going to be the 8th largest in the UK. For me, we should have gone, right, we're going to have a 60,000 seat stadium. We're going to be bullish about it. You know, we're going to stamp our authority on the city. We've built every stadium in this city. We're Everton Football Club. Blah, 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 blah. But as it stands at the minute, it's still going to be smaller than Anfield. And I'm not saying that Everton can compare, you know, the global fan base of Liverpool and whatever. But it was an opportunity where it is on the dock, all of that stuff, all of this, you know, Everton hosting games for the European Championships and all of that stuff. It was a real opportunity to put Everton back on that map commercially, and they didn't do it. And for me, if that stadium ended up costing you another 50 million, 100 million quid, it was probably worth it at this point because we've been in so much debt over it anyway. What would it matter?
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I think it will be extended. There is scope to extend it. As you quite rightly say, me and you don't see how it can be done. I think it'll be down to the standing areas. And obviously, if that comes back, you can fit more people in standing than what you can seats. That's my take on it. So, if I'm right in saying that, I'm pretty sure you can. It will be extended, I think, by Dan Freak, and how they do it, I don't know, because obviously they're not going to build upwards, so I don't know. But as you quite rightly say, from the get-go, they should have went for 60,000, you know what I mean? Especially when you've got the amount of season ticket holders already, and how many you've got who are trying to get tickets week in, week out, and also the waiting list. So they would have sold out 60,000 every home game. As you quite rightly say, we're going to be bringing money in, not just for the football side of it, but for conferences, for the European Championship games that's going to be held there. They're going to have concerts there. So the club is going to be making a lot more money. And the way you make more money is by putting more bums on seats. So I don't think it's being thought right enough. Not down to Dan Myers or whatever his name is. I think it's down to the person who said, we want 52,888, draw us a stadium and build us a stadium that will hold that amount of people. It hasn't been thought through, in my opinion, by the people who should have upped it more. There would
have been a design stage between Dan, another architect, and there would have been feasibility studies about the area. And that's how these things tend to work, I think. Design stadium to various different capacities. Originally, the agreement was that this was cost £500 million, and apparently that was agreed. It was boxed off. Now, to me, when you're hearing that Real Madrid have just spent something like £2 billion refurbing the Bernabeu, you hear that Spurs Stadium was £1 billion. I'm starting to get the impression, whether this is right or wrong, that McKiri tried to do this almost on the cheap, and it doesn't work.
Well, it's been proved it's not going to work, because if you look at the season ticket waiting list and you look at the situation now, where a brand new stadium was still only the 8th biggest in the country, he has tried to do it on the cheap. So always tried to do things on the cheap, and this is why the club is in a mess that it's in now. So, we need Dan Freakin in, we need him to get all the finances in order, and then let him, obviously, he's not going to come in and go, right, let's extend the stadium straight away. That's going to be one of the last things he does, I think. There's a lot more work that needs to be done with the playing side of it, and the commercial side of it, before we even think about that. But I do think he's going to come in, he's going to hit the ground running. I think there's meetings going on already. Apparently, him and his son are not going to get involved with the club on the day-to-day running until the deal is done. But he has had people who work for the Freakin Group over in the UK. They've been at Bramley-Moore, because I spoke to someone the other day. He's seen entourage from the Freakin Group. They've been to Bramley-Moore. So there is discussions taking place. But until he's actually through the door and he's got the keys to Goodison Park, Bramley-Moore, then we're not going to know what's going to go on. But I think he's going to hit the ground running. He wants to shake this club up, Michael, and he wants to do it from the day he comes in.
And that I am thoroughly excited about. Guys, we will leave it there. Match preview will be normal. Me and John will try and work it around our incredibly busy schedules, while I'm lounging around by the swimming pool and, taking in the sights and all of that. And John's driving around Boo in his little car. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe, guys. Really, really appreciate your love and your support. Comments on the match reaction were great as always. Preview was also great as well. So thank you again. And we will see you soon. We will see you for that video. John, anything else to end on?
Nothing. Just hope you're having a good time, my friends. Missing you, to be fair, missing our daily phone calls about 10 times a day. But as long as you're enjoying yourself, that's the main thing, and we can still get these videos out for our subscribers.
Correct. Up the toughies. Peace.